Disney is known and loved for their wholesome and family-friendly stories, making them a prime target for interneters everywhere to dig deep and uncover Disney's dark secrets and underlying mysteries. Today, we'll investigate one of those theories and determine whether there's something to it or if it's simply a goof.
Welcome back, folks. Have we got an interesting one for you today? So, as I was sifting through a whole bunch of theories, I noticed that many Disney theories you see on the web circle around the 3D era of Disney and Pixar films, which I guess coincides with the sort of internet hype age that we're in. But I decided to dig back and see what was lurking about in the 2D era, and today's theory was found in one of the last movies I ever would have expected, The Emperor's New Groove, where the theory posits that Yzma's right-hand man, Kronk, is really a squirrel. Riveting. Let's get into the nuts and bolts of this very strange and interesting theory. One of the reasons that people love The Emperor's New Groove is because of its over-the-top silliness and meta-humor.
This story's about me, not him. Okay, you got it? All right, we're gonna move ahead. Sorry to slow you down.
So of course, really anything in this movie can ultimately be written off. In a world with no electricity, yet microphones and floor buffers exist, it goes without saying that all manner of shenanigans are on the table. However, this theory still is pretty fascinating. Most of this movie centralizes around Yzma using a magic potion to turn Kuzco into a llama. By accident, of course.
A llama? He's supposed to be dead!
Yeah, weird.
Those pesky labels. Now, the long and the short of this theory is that just like Yzma had a potion to turn a human into an animal, so too does she have potions to turn an animal into a human. And by capturing a common squirrel and giving them a human potion, shebang! Yzma's got herself an instant, brainless, subservient henchman. After all, we do hear Kuzco say,
And let's not forget Yzma's right-hand man. Every decade or so, she gets a new one. This year's model is called KRONK.
Interesting, considering squirrels in the wild tend to live for about 6 to 12 years. This could also explain Yzma's lack of knowledge about Kronk's age.
He's what, in his late 20s?
I'm not sure.
Of course, in the film we see that Yzma has a cabinet full of potions. Each potion is intended to turn one thing into another, and almost all of those serve to turn things into animals. Turtles, bears, whales, llamas, and many more. Interesting thing with this is, every group of elixirs seems to have a few vials per animal, but the potions that turn something human? All gone. Or used, we could say, except for one, of course, which the final scene revolves around. This low inventory on human potions reveals that Yzma has been using them to transform her henchmen over the years. I mean, Yzma's not necessarily a people person, so it stands to reason that she would have a hard time recruiting real people to work for her. Why not just transform a dumb animal? Kronk himself's behavior is so over-the-top stupid that it seems to surpass the idiocy of any other human character you see in the film. The stupidity, the short attention span, the childlike way that he inhabits the human world, all of which seems to be explained by him having a tiny squirrel brain. Now, this Kronk squirrel theory is actually an offshoot of another smaller, yet darker secret hidden in the film. When Kuzco is first llamified, he recklessly takes to the dangerous and dark jungle away from Pacha's house. He quickly recognizes, though, how unsafe these woods are, and one very violent occurrence stands out as a part of that terror.
What?
What's interesting here is that this small bug that gets eaten is heard by Kuzco crying out, "Help me." But why could Kuzco understand that bug? All the other animals that Kuzco hears later on sound like, well, animals. Squirrels, panthers, other llamas, none of which Kuzco can understand. But this flying bug, he can. And that is because this bug, like Kuzco, was transformed into a bug via magic or potion, which is why it can speak human. And for this video, I'm going to call it human instead of English, because though the film was originally in English, it's probably not the language those characters spoke. so we're going with human. Now, of course, this scene picks up quite a different vibe when considering that that bug was previously a human. Through this lens, Kuzco watches someone actually get straight up murdered. It's a great theory, and it does indeed open the door for this KRONK idea. The big hinges in this theory are the rules. Who can talk to who, and how does that all work? Well, if you turn from a human to an animal, you're still able to speak human, and can't speak with other animals. This is the case with Kuzco, the guards at the end, and supposedly that poor gobbled up bug. But if you go from human to animal and still only speak human, if you turn from animal to human, in theory, you should still only be able to speak your native animal language, right? Using that logic, how do you explain Kronk's knowledge of the human language? Shouldn't he only speak Squirrel? I mean, Kronk's ability to speak with and understand squirrels is a huge part of why this transformation seems plausible. But how can he speak human as well? Well, just the same way that Kuzco, with some effort, could learn to walk on all fours and even act like a llama, the same goes for a squirrel acting like a human, and with a little coaching from his master, could learn some basic human language. This lack of human experience is evident in Kronk's intelligence and behavior. Take a squirrel, give it some human potion, train it to talk and act like a human for a year or so, and voila! You've got a KRONK. Okay, enough is enough, proof guy. The theory is fun, no doubt, but just like my friend Marshall told me, it's time to snap back to reality. Now, the idea of the bug early on in the movie being a transformed human and Kuzco watching it get murdered, that's actually kind of an awesome small little spooky detail, and because that bug and transformed kitten Yzma are the only other animals that were able to see talk besides Kuzco and the transformed guards, well, by George, that is pretty damn airtight. Kudos for the creepiness, Disney. I don't see any evidence that debunks that. I'm calling it confirmed. But this video is about the KRONK theory, and there are oh so many holes to poke in this thing. Chief among these holes is the sequel, Kronk's New Groove. We actually see KRONK as a baby, a human baby. We also meet his father, so we know for a fact that he grew up walking on two legs as a plain old guy. Yes, it's true. This sequel had a totally different set of writers, so you can easily say that Kronk's New Groove isn't canon, and the original writers did intend this secret little theory. Because, let's all admit, KRONK didn't get a sequel because it was the next part of the story intended by the original writers. It's because he was a popular comedic character and sells merchandise. Some suits said, let's cash in on this. Hire some writers and tell them to go make some stories about KRONK. And the rest was history. But okay, fine, just for fun, let's pretend that the sequel never existed. The theory is still busted. We talked about how Kuzco, with some effort, could pass as a real llama, so why couldn't a squirrel with some coaching pass as a human? Well, because Kuzco is an intelligent human being who can easily act like a llama, and a squirrel cannot learn English, no matter how much you teach it. But wait, you say! Yzma could have used some magic to teach it human speak. But come on, you can pretty much explain anything via Yzma ex machina magic if you really want to. You could even explain that the water slide model that Kuzco shows doesn't shoot you straight off a cliff. Which it does. But let's get back to the facts. KRONK actually has a scene in the original film where he recalls his own childhood and even explains exactly how he knows how to speak with squirrels. So, that's in there. The theory is charming and pretty unique in the landscape of Disney theories, sure. But sorry to say, this thing is debunked. And now onto the final segment, which by popular demand has been renamed The Truth. So, ultimately, we did have to go with a solid debunked here. This theory is really a blast, and like most theories that aren't complete BS, they make repeat viewings of the movie super fun. But the sequel is official Disney, and thusly is canon. And yes, I recognize how silly it is to be talking about the Emperor's New Groove canon, but, well, here we are. KRONK talks about his childhood in the original film, and we see it and his human family in the sequel. And unless you justify it through some ex machina Yzma magic, you just can't teach a squirrel to speak. The movie is pure silliness, and it knows it. It's part of why people love it.
How did you get back here before us?
How did we, Kronk?
Well, you got me. By all accounts, it doesn't make sense.
So you can justify about anything, but this time around, I really don't think the filmmakers intended Kronk to be a transformed squirrel. Yzma's interchanging of mindless beefcake henchmen feels more to me like a joke about how old she is and sort of a cougar thing. For me, both this theory and the little mini theory within it are both a ton of fun. So I hope you guys enjoyed going over them in a very over-the-top and over-analytical way. As always, hit me up on Twitter @Lutoons with theories that you want to see explored on this series. The stranger and the darker, the better. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time with another theory to debunk. Or to not debunk. Dun dun dun!